right, welcome everyone. We are here and live on Facebook. So my name is Mike Brickner. I'm the Executive Director with the ACLU of Delaware. I'm here with my colleague Karen. Karen, you want to say hi to all of the Facebook folks?
Hello everyone, this is Karen Lantz. I'm the Legal and Policy Director here at the ACLU of Delaware.
So we're here because it is 6 days, less than 6 days until the election. And so we know a lot of you have many questions about what the ACLU is doing to prepare for the election, what you need to do to prepare for the election, and how you can make sure that your vote is going to be protected. So we're here to answer all of your questions tonight. So as you are on Facebook Live on Facebook, just type in those questions in the comments section. They'll be relayed to us and we will answer whatever question you have. But Karen, we're getting ready for this, historic monumental election. There's going to be, a lot of folks voting by mail, a lot of folks voting on election day. What's the ACLU doing to make sure that the election happens and without a lot of problems?
Well, there's a lot of activity with the voter protection part of ACLU National, preparing for eventualities all across the country. Here at the ACLU of Delaware, our legal team is prepared to monitor the ACLU's online intake form, which I think our lovely communications director, Morgan, can probably put a link to that in the Facebook comments, as well as cooperating with the National Election Protection folks who have a 1-866-HOUR VOTE number that people can call if they run into any problems at the polls on election day. We'll be prepared to respond to those in real time. We're very lucky here in Delaware that for the most part in past years, and we have our fingers crossed it will be true this year as well, that we have not seen a ton of problems like voter intimidation, people being unable to vote when they should be at the polls. Usually most problems can be resolved by a call to the county elections office, who's very responsive and tend to be able to sort things out in fairly short order. We do, however, because if there is any year where things will not go smoothly, it's going to be 2020. We have a small team of volunteer attorneys that are going to be on call in the event that anything occurs that does require a quick legal response. We'll be ready to go. Again, however, it's our fervent hope that everything will go smoothly and calmly for everyone on election day. And we'll be standing by and poised, but we'll never actually have to spring into action. But we are here to back you up if we're needed.
That's right. So, stay calm, carry on, cast your vote. Everything will be okay. The other thing that we're doing here at the ACLU is it's not just about protecting people on election day, but it's also educating Delawareans about the system and making sure that they know how to cast their ballot. So some of the other things that we've done beyond our legal preparations is we've tried to make sure that people know how to navigate the vote by mail system. That's really new for a lot of people. So you might have seen on Facebook, we have a explainer video that walks people through how to cast their ballot. We've also been partnering with a lot of our groups here in Delaware. So we are part of the Votamos We Vote Coalition, where we have texted over 10,000 Latinx Delawareans who are registered voters, making sure that they know where to get their vote by mail ballot, how to find their polling location if they want to vote in person. And we also worked during the primary election with our game changers, canvassing out in Greater Wilmington, making sure people knew about people's positions on policing issues and making sure people were engaged in the voting process. So we're trying to make sure as many folks know about their right to vote as is possible. But sometimes things might go a little bit wrong. And, one of the things that we're monitoring, Karen, I know, is the vote by mail system, because that's new for a lot of folks, right? We didn't typically have vote by mail. We had absentee voting, but you had to have an excuse. And now everybody can vote by mail. So what are some of the things that we're watching for with vote by mail right now, Karen? And what do folks need to know to make sure their vote by mail ballot gets counted?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Up until this year, as Mike said, you had to have an excuse to vote absentee, but in light of the pandemic, the General Assembly did pass a no excuse universal vote by mail statute. So that'll be in place for the very first time for this election. Delaware, everyone should know, is what's called a ballot in hand state. Which means that your ballot has to be at the election office by 8 p.m. on election day, or it will not count. Now, at this point, you can still request a mail ballot up until this Friday. I suppose at that point it might be questionable whether you even receive it in the mail before election day. But at this point, if you have requested a mail ballot and you have not yet returned it, you should not put it in the mail. There are drop boxes where you can take your ballot physically and drop it off in each county, except for, I think, Georgetown, which has a 24-hour drop box. The others are limited to business hours. And I think I can probably also ask our fine communications director, Morgan, to put it in the comments, the link for the locations of the ballot drop boxes in each county. There is only one in Kent, one in Sussex. There are technically 3 in Newcastle County, although 2 of them are in the same building, the state building downtown. So you can, at this point, take your mail ballot, fill it out, seal it, sign it, to one of those drop boxes. I believe you can also take it to the county elections office, but I think the drop boxes are at the elections office, so that's essentially the same thing. So that is an option that you do have. If you choose not to mail it back at this point, or if you have mailed it back, but you think that perhaps it has not arrived, there is the ivotedelaware.gov website does have an option for you to, as long as you have a driver's license or state ID number, you can check to see if the state elections office has received and not counted, but accepted and prepared for counting your ballot. If your ballot has not been received by election day, you can go to your polling site. And at that point, the elections worker will have to cancel your mail ballot, confirm that it has not been received, and cancel it, and then you can vote in person. Now, it is not simply theoretical for me. I actually put my ballot in the mail over a week ago and have been checking the iVote site, and it is not yet listed that they have received my ballot. So fingers crossed that it gets there, or that it has gotten there, but that it hasn't been updated on the website. But if it's not showing as received by election day, I will be going in person to my polling place, which is not my first choice, but I will take my mask and my hand sanitizer and my own pen and go vote in person on election day. All of the regular polling places are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. I think there are some exceptions for polling places that are located in senior centers because of the higher risks to seniors with COVID. But again, you can go to the Department of Elections website to check your polling place if you're unsure.
So bottom line, if you haven't requested your mail-in ballot yet, you still technically can request it, but whether or not it gets to you in time is a big question. So if you have not requested it yet, our recommendation is plan to show up on election day and vote that way. If you have already received your mail-in ballot, but you have not mailed it back yet, don't drop it off in the mail. Don't trust. We love the USPS, but we can't necessarily trust that it's going to get delivered by the close of polls next Tuesday. So we want you to take that mail-in ballot and instead take it to your local county board of elections, drop it off in the drop box. Don't forget to sign the back where the signature is, because that could be another problem that might trip you up. But if you also just decide, you know what, I don't want to go to my county drop box, I want to show up on election day, even though I requested a vote by mail, you can still do that, right? So just go in, they will cancel your vote by mail ballot, and you will be able to cast a ballot in person on election day. Election day could be, kind of busy, right? We've been seeing a lot of long lines for early voting already. And so we know that this election is going to be historic. We know that there's going to be a lot of folks who are coming out to vote. And so that's a great thing. But it could also cause a couple problems on election day. So a couple tips for you if you are an election day voter. One, expect that you might have to wait a little while. So if you have a hard time standing for long periods, maybe bring a folding chair with you, that might help you in the line, or let a poll worker know that you have a disability that makes it hard for you to stand and that you might need some sort of accommodation. Also, just make sure you have that room in your schedule. Hopefully, we don't want anyone waiting longer than half an hour. But if it is busy that day, we do know some people have had to wait longer than that to cast an early in-person ballot. So, just make sure that you have plenty of time in your schedule. If you need to, talk to your employer or anything about making sure you have plenty of time. If you are in line and it's a long line that evening, keep in mind, if you are in line when polls close, don't get out of line. As long as you are in line by the time the polls close, you can still cast your ballot in person. So just don't get out of line if you happen to be one of those people who decides to go cast your ballot after work that day. The other thing that I always wonder, Karen, so I'm new to Delaware, and I just had to I had to switch my driver's license over to a Delaware driver's license. Do I have to show a driver's license when I go to vote, or can I just go in without an ID?
So Delaware does not require a photo ID. We've had instances in past elections where sometimes some poll workers don't know that. Maybe they're new and they didn't catch that part of the training. But hopefully somebody there should know that, or you can call our election protection hotline. If you're a first-time voter, you're often asked to show some sort of proof that you are who you are. And I think there's a list on the Department of Election website of things that you can show, like a utility bill or a lease. And if you do not have any of those, you can still sign an affidavit saying that you are who you say you are and still cast your ballot.
The other thing that I've been getting a lot of questions about is, I know you mentioned intimidation earlier, but people have been really worried, like, what if somebody, says something harassing to me, or is standing outside of the polling place and is in a police uniform? What kinds of things should voters kind of look for? And how, if I'm a voter and I encounter somebody who I feel is being intimidating, what should I do?
So probably the first thing to do in that situation would be to let one of the poll workers at the polls know that that is happening. There are rules about how close to the polling place folks are allowed to be if they're, campaigning for different issues, or they're on behalf of different candidates. There are also laws against voter intimidation and voter harassment. Hopefully notifying a poll worker who will assess the situation, can ask the person to knock it off or move it along. Hopefully that will solve the problem. The county election officers themselves may at some point, if they decide that there's someone who is threatening enough, they may call law enforcement. as a last resort to help keep people safe. We generally don't favor having law enforcement stationed at polls because some people find law enforcement themselves to be intimidating when they're going to cast their vote. But certainly, I know that the Department of Justice and their partner law enforcement offices take voter intimidation very seriously and are prepared to respond if that becomes an issue. Again, fingers crossed, hopefully that's not a problem for anyone on election day.
Fingers crossed. Now, one of the other things that I I always look forward to with every election is I'm a huge data nerd. I love to like look at all of the results coming in that night and, you know, compare, okay, what does this state say? And where's this legislative district going? And it's like, you know, Christmas morning, you get to unwrap all of your presents and see what you got from everyone casting their ballots. But I think, again, this is an unusual election. And so we also have to, I think, be prepared that we might not actually have the full results on election night. And I think that there's a couple things to remember that's, I think, really important is, number one, even when we would have a declared winner on election night or a candidate who conceded, those were never the official results, right? Every state in this country takes several days and sometimes several weeks to actually certify their final results because all of them have to go through a process to audit their results, to check to make sure, you know, provisional ballots or other special things work well and should count. And so, you know, we may have to wait a little bit longer. Part of that's also because of the pandemic. Because of COVID-19, more and more states are having to move to vote by mail. And vote by mail just oftentimes takes a little bit longer for the ballots to process. Many states have rules that they can't actually process those vote by mail ballots until the polls close on election day. And so that means that they're not getting a start until maybe 8 o'clock at night or later if they're a West Coast state. And so it may cause some of those results to come out a little bit late. And then also other states do, so Karen mentioned that Delaware is a state that has a hard deadline that all vote by mail ballots have to be in by 8 p.m. on election day. But other states actually allow 3 days, 5 days, sometimes 10 days for a ballot to come in as long as it was postmarked before or on election day. And so we may be having some of those late ballots coming in really important states where we might not know the election results. So other than maybe having a glass of wine, Karen, what else should we do as we're waiting for these results?
Well, I find it important to have cookies on hand. But yeah, more seriously, I think there's a lot more anxiety and stress around this election than I remember in any past elections. Maybe part of that is amnesia. Maybe you forget a little bit as time passes. But certainly the combinations of COVID and election stress and everybody's regular stress has been pretty overwhelming. So do be aware of your stress level. Sometimes you might want to put that device down and walk away from the 24-hour news bombardment. I like to run from time to time to blow off some steam. I think on our blog about Election Day on our website, Morgan has compiled some other suggestions for trying to take the edge off your stress. There are apparently anxiety relief apps. Who knew? There's an app for everything now, as well as guided meditations. I mean, everybody knows themselves and sort of what their own stress relief method is, but do try to stay aware of your own mental health and well-being. It's going to be a little tough, I think, for all of us. Go easy on yourself, show a little love to your friends and family. Mike, what do you do to try to handle your anxiety?
Well, besides the glass of wine, I also love to cook a nice meal. It's very therapeutic for me. You know, I get to enjoy the fruits of that labor after if it's something delicious that I've made. Maybe I'll make some. I've made way too much banana bread during a pandemic, but maybe I'll make some banana bread on on election eve. And then also I have some pets that I will probably give some additional love to. You know, the other thing that I would say, just to make everyone here maybe feel a little bit better about, you know, post-election day is, you know, not only is the ACLU preparing for election day, we are also preparing for post-election day. This is my fifth presidential election that I have worked for the ACLU. And this is the most coordinated, the most prepared that we have ever been for an election day. I can say that emphatically. And we are, you know, looking forward to election day, making sure election day goes smoothly. But we're also making sure, and we are coordinating across the country in battleground states and every state across the United States to make sure that the count goes orderly, that we are ensuring that every valid, eligible ballot gets counted. And we're also making sure that we are prepared for people to express their feelings and their political beliefs. And so if there are protests or other things, we are absolutely planning and preparing to help assist and defend people who wish to express their First Amendment rights. So, you know, we do have a plan for after the election. And so, you know that we at the ACLU have your back, and we are going to make sure every ballot that is valid and eligible is counted, and that we are able to keep some of our, you know, big democratic values like free speech and political expression going, even in this politically turbulent time. I'm seeing a question here in the chat, Karen. So one person said that they sent back their mail-in ballot like you, but it's not marked as received on ivote.de.gov. Will their vote count? What should they do?
So, yeah, if your ballot is not received by the elections office by 8 p.m. on election day, your vote will not count. So it's very important to, if you have not, as we said earlier, if you've not mailed your ballot yet, at this point, you probably want to take it to one of the drop boxes or make a plan for voting in person on election day. Now, I don't know exactly how often the Department of Elections manages to update the iVote website. So I suppose it's possible that maybe they will have received it, but it's not showing up. To be absolutely sure, if you if you feel comfortable putting on your mask and your comfy shoes and heading to your polling location, to be sure your vote counts, I would go to the polling location. The polling worker will check with the Department of Elections. Now, if they have received your ballot, you cannot vote again in person, but at least then you will know that they have received your ballot. And if they have not, then, as we said earlier, they can cancel your ballot and you can proceed to vote in person at your polling place on election day.
And remember, if you do encounter problems, either voting with voting by mail or voting on election day, one, we at the ACLU want to hear from you. So you can go onto our website, click the Need Legal Assistance button, and fill out a legal intake form. Our legal team is monitoring that, and on election day, we will be monitoring that in real time. But also you can call the nonpartisan nationwide election protection hotline. On election day, they will have, everyone will be answering calls live. They probably will also be answering calls live much of the days leading up to the election, working on issues with vote by mail and absentee ballots. And so if you run into a problem, if you have a question, call that 866-OUR-VOTE number. That's 866-OUR-VOTE, and they will be able to assist you. They have scores of trained volunteers and attorneys who know about election law, who will be able to help route whatever problem you are experiencing and can help you in real time. So Karen, any beyond, staying calm, go to vote, have a glass of wine after as you're watching the results, any other last advice you would give to Delaware voters who are nervous about this election? What else do they need to know?
Well, as far as the actual voting process itself, if you're planning to go vote in person, again, all of the polling places are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Make a plan, because you're much more likely to actually get there and get your vote cast if you know what time of day you're going, and are you taking a family member with you, and that sort of thing. Take comfortable shoes in case there are long lines. Hopefully there are not, but this is a little bit of a unprecedented year. So we will prepare for the unexpected. Take your mask. You are actually not required to wear a mask to vote. You are encouraged to do so. We here at the ACLU would encourage you to be considerate of your fellow voters and the poll workers and wear your ACLU mask. Morgan could probably put a link in the comments about where you could buy an ACLU vote mask, although it's probably a little questionable at this point whether you would get that in time for Election Day. Yeah, as far as peace of mind for Election Day, just remember again that the ACLU has got your back. We're prepared both here in Delaware. The ACLU's affiliates and their national office have been, prepping and gaming out possible scenarios. And hopefully, again, we all cross our fingers that there is no drama, and that we have clear answers sooner rather than later. Here in Delaware, actually, you can get election results in real time because we are a ballot in hand state, and because the Department of Elections is able to open mail ballots ahead of time. They don't count them, but they do open them and prepare them to be processed. And Morgan has the link for where you can check the Delaware Department of Elections. We all get very caught up sometimes in talking about the national scale, but obviously there's a lot of important elections going on right here in Delaware. And for a lot of folks, the average person, a lot of the decisions that are going to most directly impact your day-to-day life are going to be made by local and state level elected officials. So anyway, those results, at least, you'll probably usually be able to see close to final results on Election Day. They're not certified, but they've usually managed to count most of them, and they put them up on the State of Delaware Department of Elections website. So if you're a nerd like me, you can sit and hit the refresh button every 20 minutes or so while you're sipping your glass of wine.
I feel seen. Thank you, Karen, because I will be doing the same thing. But again, it's 2020. Let's hope for the best, but prepare for the worst, right? So we hope everything goes smoothly and everything goes absolutely without any kind of problems on Election Day. But if there are problems on Election Day, we're prepared. We at the ACLU have your back. We also want you to be prepared, right? You can help to navigate a lot of problems just by knowing your rights and being prepared before you walk into that polling place on Election Day. So study up, make sure that you know your rights. Talk to one of your friends or neighbors about it. Make sure that that other person in your life who maybe doesn't know all of the rules around voting is prepared themselves. Help somebody else make sure that their ballot gets cast too. And we're also preparing for Election Day, whether we have a decision or we're waiting for several days or several weeks for a final result in the presidential election. We at the ACLU, again, we are going to be doing everything in our power to make sure every single valid, eligible vote is counted in every single state. And we are also going to make sure that our ability to express our political beliefs are also protected. So, you know, we've got your back. Stay tuned to your email, to our social media, because we'll be updating you as new things come out. So with that, we want to thank you all for coming tonight. We appreciate all of your support to the ACLU of Delaware. And again, stay calm, carry on, vote. We've got your back, and we are going to make sure that this election goes through as smoothly as it possibly can. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.